Everybody go here. So hopefully everybody shows up because I'm ready. We are ready if you are ready. And I know I'm late, but I ain't that one wasn't my fault. That one right there, that wasn't my fault right there. No. So but nonetheless, hold on. Hold on. We gonna get this thing together. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. So okay. There we go. All right, so it looks like we're back in business. Okay. All right. Yeah, listen, the other stream, it said it wasn't connected to the chat. And I was like, I'm not doing a show without no chat. So yo, Urban Therapy with Sun 752 with this your daily. Urban Therapy with Sun 752 with this your daily. The daily go get him show. We do this every single day. Every day it rains. Every day it rains. And the DG will do the same. I said, every day it rains and the DG will do the same. Every day it rains and the DG will do the same. Every day it rains and the DG will do the same. Every day it rains and the DG will do the same. Every day it rains and the DG will do the same. Every day it rains and the DG will do the same. Every day it rains. Every day it rains. Every day it rains. Every day it rains. Every day it rains and the DG will do the same. Listen, I'm your host, Sun 752, aka Omar with the rrr. And if you can't say Omar with the rrr, well, then you just say Omar with the R's, the Daily Go Get Him show, and we are in motion finally. I know it took a little bit. It took a little while. Listen, when I went to the YouTube channel and then I started the show and it said go live, and then all of a sudden it said unable to connect to chat. Try again later. I was like, nah, son. Nah, I mean, y'all can watch me live, but I don't really think that you get the same experience if it's not interaction. So I didn't want any part of that. So I had to delete that show and go another route. I had to delete that show and go another route. Had to delete that show and then I'm go on out. But it's all good though, y'all. Yo, thanks for coming through. Thanks for bearing with me. Y'all know if we had any technical difficulties, then it wasn't going to last very long. So, we are here now today on this Hump Day Wednesday. Y'all know I was born on a Wednesday. It's all good. Hump Day. Yeah, baby. We are talking about what if we had better teaching and better curriculum instead of more funding? What if we taught better? What if we had better teachers? What if we had more dedication? What if we had a better plan? What if we tailored our the educational experience for our children and even adults instead of trying to pay our way into the workforce, into success, into happiness, or should I say quality of life? What if we stopped looking for more money and we started learning how to make more money? What if we stopped asking for more fish and decided to give out more fishing poles so you can catch all the fish that you need? What if we did that? I mean, what could it hurt? It sounds like a plan. I think it would work. It sounds like a plan. I think it would work. And this is not even just for children. This is what we're going to talk about tonight. This is not even just for children. What if, because listen, We complain about the public school system and how they're not teaching us what we need to know, and how they're not doing what needs to be done, and how they're not preparing our students for success, how they're not preparing our young people for success. We were just talking about this on the show the other night, and we were talking about how they took well, we talk about it all the time, especially with Carol, how they took the trades, the vocations out of schools, out of regular schools. Now you have to go to a vocational school in order to learn the trade. In other words, in order to learn how to be worth something, in order to learn how to do something, you have to go to a specialty school for a public school education. When they used to give out that training to be able to get a job for the rest of your life. Well, to me, it's unacceptable. And I think that there are things that we could do in order to reverse it and get it back the way that it needs to be. Technical training is missing in our schools. Technical training is missing in our training. Technical training is missing in our homes. Technical training is missing in our lives, in our communities, on our streets, on our blocks. It's missing. And it's missing only because it's not being given out the way that it used to be given. Somewhere at some time, people used to understand the importance of knowing how to do something, of being worth something. Before, a man's worth was pretty much steeped in his ability to prove his worth. So if your worth was going to be money, if you were going to be the money man, that meant that you had to learn how to make the money. Now, the way that you learned how to make the money was different from man to man, because it could have been a job, it could have been a career, it could have been a hustle, it could have been a whole lot of things. But you definitely had to know how to do something in order to get your shit off. What's going on, Carol Chamberlain, mi favorita? Thanks for coming on through. And it's so glad to see you. And Emily Dunlap is in the house. Wow, you're about to turn it out, man. And a T Carry Right is all up in the place. Yeah, it's always good to see your face. True. So, yeah, am I drinking tonight? Yeah, Emily, I'm drinking. I'm gonna drink heavy. I can't drink that tea. That tea too hot. Now, that's going to have to be an after party drink. It's going to have to be like a nightcap or something like that. I'm not going to be able to get that off. I ain't going to be able to get that off, son. I ain't going to be able to get that shit off. So I was thinking about this today. Yeah. What if we had better teachers? Better teachers. We complain that our teachers don't make enough. It's funny because I see it a different way. I see it like our teachers aren't teaching enough. They aren't good enough. Some people have desecrated and soured the teaching profession. In order for you to be a teacher, and this is just an opinion of mine, but it's an opinion that I'm going to hold fast to. In order to be a teacher, you need to believe in teaching. You need to believe in developing the youth. You need to believe that our young people need to have their minds developed, and that they need to be able to be skilled in certain areas, and to hone their mental skills so that they are able to think through things. Thinking through things. It sounds very simple, doesn't it? Thinking through things. But you would be amazed at how thinking through things, the point gets missed with so many people. And it could be a variety of reasons of why it gets missed with so many people. But I think that one of the reasons that it gets missed is because we are not concentrating on teaching our young people cognitive thinking. I remember when I was in high school, they taught cognitive thinking. Not closing your mind to only think one way, but opening your mind and learning how to distinguish one thing from another thing. Remember when we grew up, we had puzzles. Remember puzzles, putting together puzzles? I don't care whether they were those thick, what were those things made of? They were made of like wafer board or something like that. Thick puzzles that your parents will buy you from the toy store. You know, some of us had parents who didn't just buy them toys. Yeah, you got toys, but guess what? You're gonna get these books too, and you're gonna read these books. Yeah, you're gonna get learning materials. Oh, yeah. You're gonna get that racing car set, but guess what? You're gonna get this science set too. Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna be in there trying to mix up shit, trying to make a bomb or something like that. You know what I mean? Remember the science kits? Yeah. Yeah. You gonna get a science or electrical set, something like that, something that taught you how to actually do something. Something that taught you how something worked. Yeah. We had parents who had those types of interests now. Now, I don't see anything wrong with video games because, shoot, growing up, not only did I like video games, but I liked pinball before video games ever came out. I remember we had the black and white TV with the table tennis, and it was only the tennis was just a square and two flat lines, and you had to, it was like hockey, like bing, 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 bing. That was on the black and white TV. On the 13-inch black and white, I remember we had that joint. That was my first sight of a video game. By the time Space Invaders and Pac-Man and all of those things came out, I was all in. And I don't see anything wrong with video games. Video games do shape your mind in a certain type of way. The problem is that some video games shape your mind in a destructive way. And they actually teach you about artillery and guns and warfare and combat and a whole lot of adult situations, but they don't necessarily teach you how to think. And that's a problem. I think that's a problem. So if you're going to give your children video games, I think that you also have to give them some learning materials, something to actually build their mind. Puzzles used to do that. Word games do that. They make you think. They make you strategize. A game of chess. Board games are always a big hit as far as shaping your mind to think a certain kind of way, to strategize, to be patient, to think about what your next move is going to be and to think about what your opponent's next move may be so that you can counter it ahead of time, to think 3 steps ahead instead of being so reactionary. So I don't care whether it's chess. I don't care whether it's checkers. I don't care whether it's backgammon. I don't care whether it's the game of life. I don't care if it's Monopoly. All of those board games are very good at shaping your mind and teaching you how to strategize and how to be patient and how to calculate someone else's moves. It makes you smarter. Not only that, but on these games, you have to be able to read. In video games, you don't have to know how to read, unfortunately. Everything is talk. Everything is animation. Well, what if we had something to teach us how the animation is brought to life? What if we had something to teach us how video games are made? I would be down for that. But I would imagine that you would have to learn a lot about math and science, which is good. But we have to teach the basics. And the whole point of this show is to show that there are things that we can do that can help our children to do better. Homeschooling should be in every single home. There should not be a home that does not offer homeschooling, because whether you want to call it homeschooling or whether you want to call it home training or whether you want to call it home teaching or whether you want to call it home development, it does not matter. There's no reason that any child should have to go to school to learn. The learning needs to start in the home because the plan of attack needs to start at home. Now, evidently, a lot of people don't understand this concept. Way too many people do not understand this concept. but we need to get it together. We need to get it together because it doesn't cost a lot of money in order to learn. We got it twisted. They got it. They got the game messed up, and they got us believing that we have to go in debt for $100,000 or more, $200,000 in order to get a decent education, to have a chance to be able to make it in life. Well, I ain't buying it, son. I ain't buying that. Like I said, homeschooling should be in every single home. There shouldn't be a home that we know of that does not offer homeschooling. You have a parent, you have parents, you have extended family. They all went to school. They all learned. They all got jobs. They all have careers. They all have lives. Well, that's all you really need. Start teaching. Just like I said, just like I talked about the other day. If you work at a job, 9 to 5 or whatever your work schedule may be, whatever you learn at your job, your child should be taught that for free. You went to school and you have a job welding, then your child should be able to weld for free. You went to school for electricity, whether you are an electrician or whether you are an electrical engineer or whether you are just a journeyman who knows how to hook up some wires. Your child should know how to do it. You went to school for plumbing. You became a master plumber. You have a master plumber license. You got a number. You can go to the plumbing supply store and show your master plumber's license and buy pipes and shit for wholesale. Your child should know how to do plumbing, male or female. Whatever you had to pay for, your children should get for free. I'm going to say it again. Whatever you had to pay for as far as education, as far as a vocation, your child should get it for free. You sew, your child should know how to sew. Whether they decide to make a career out of it is not up to you. That don't have nothing to do with you. You do your part. You teach them how to do what you do for money so that they can make some money. I don't care if you work in retail sales, goddamn. I don't care if you're nothing but a cashier working at Walmart, working at Family Dollar. Well, then they should be able to sell some shit. Now, if you sell ass for a living, don't teach them that. But it is a form of entrepreneurship. So substitute the ass for some class. I'm selling class, baby. I'm selling class, baby. I said substitute the ass for some class. I'm selling ass, baby. I'm selling class. I said substitute that ass for some class. I'm selling class, baby. Sean School, baby. I said substitute that ass for the class. I'm selling class. I'm selling class. Told my babies how to sell some class. Yes, they do. Told my babies how to sell some class. Me and you. Told my baby how to sell some class. It's all good. Told my baby how to sell some class. Didn't I think that I should? All right. All right. So y'all on board. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about? Emily says, learning can be fun. Every toy that was bought for my two was fun as well as educational. That's the way it always used to be. You know, I mean, we complain about these parents nowadays falling down on the job and how they're not doing what they need to do, and they're not teaching the kids nothing, and they're just using the school as a daycare, and there is truth to that, but we have to put a stop to it. And just because we see that problem doesn't mean that we can't counter the problem. Shit. I mean, I honestly feel like this. If these parents don't want to teach their kids, then what? Fuck it. We got to teach them. You know why we got to teach them? You know why we need to teach them if their parents won't teach them? Because if we don't teach them, then we'll be victimized by them. I mean, am I lying? If we don't fucking teach them something better, then we'll be their victims. If we don't teach them how to make some money, then we'll be their victims. If we don't teach them some positivity, then we'll be their victims. Instead of encouraging them to be out here fighting, show them how to box. Show them how to do martial arts, self-defense, something that will give them some coaching, some structure, and give them a purpose. Because that gets rid of all the anger and frustration when you get coaching and guidance and competition. You understand what I'm talking about? See, poverty and lack of education breeds crime, violent crime. What are you going to do if you're broke and don't know shit? What are you going to do? What should you be expected to do? Well, I'll tell you what they tell us that they expect us to do. They expect us to wait. They expect us to pray because God will make a way. Well, how is God going to make a way for your broke dumbass? Maybe God is saying, yo, take your ass to school, learn something so you can get this money. He told Pastor that. Pastor got up off his ass and got a church together, and he getting all the money. Pastor got a doctor by his name. Doctor this, doctor that, Rev this, Rev that. He's a theologian. Well, because when you're broke and you're uneducated, your options are limited. When you start to learn things so that you can be self-sufficient, then it gives you confidence. You know that tomorrow is going to come when you know that you're going to have money to pay for it. But if we put ourselves in the position where all we're doing is waiting for somebody to give us something like the welfare system, and sometimes unemployment, but then we put ourselves behind the 8 ball. And we ain't got to do that. Nah, baby. We ain't got to do that. No. We can do better than that, and we must do better than that. We must do better than that. T. Carey Wright says, every parent isn't equipped to be a teacher. Yes, every parent is. Yes, every parent is, in the context of what I'm talking about as far as teaching is concerned. See, because you're an educator, you're probably thinking more in a linear fashion. But I know that you have the ability to open up. But see, an education to me is not just a formal education. When I say homeschooling, I'm not just talking about getting a lesson program together in order to teach your children. I'm talking about home training. I'm talking about life skills. I'm talking about history. Even if the only history that you get is family history or what happened around the way back in the day, it's still knowledge and it's still applicable to anything that you do. So whatever if you know that you're not stupid, then give them everything that you got until you get more. But what I'm talking about is giving our youth a chance. Now, as the show goes on, I'm going to talk about actual ways that that I've talked about on the show before, but I'm going to push it through again because I don't think that we're listening. Not y'all per se, but not enough people are listening to this. Like we don't have to. Like I said, your child shouldn't have to go to school to learn. The learning starts at home. The development starts at home. The training starts at home. The learning process starts at home. The prepping starts at home. The grooming starts at home. And I don't care whether you are a high school dropout or you have a doctorate with a double major. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you teach everything that you know, because somewhere in your life, you have had to learn some tough lessons. That's whether you make a lot of money or you make a little bit of money. Now, do you know how to communicate the lessons that you've learned? Do you know how to avoid the pitfalls of of the learning process that you have had to be a part of? Well, we're going to see about it. We're going to see about it. We're going to see about it. We going to see about it. We're going to see about it. We're going to see about it. Hold on. Carol Chamberlain says, when we had homework, my dad always reviewed spelling words and math homework. Mine too. Emily says, Taki, I don't agree with that. As parents, you always want more and better for your children, so you do whatever it takes to do that. I know she knows that. Okay. Carrie says, respectfully done. Parents suffer from learning disabilities and more that might prevent them from teaching their children. I see what you mean. But see, you're talking about a formal education. I'm just talking about teaching them what you know. Like, shit. If you know how to tie your shoes, shouldn't your child know how to tie your shoes? I mean, we have to get creative sometimes. You know what I mean? And sometimes we harp a little bit too much on what we don't know. And that prevents us from telling anybody what we do know, because we think that we're going to get into a pissing contest out of nowhere that we're not equipped to get into. And it ain't about all of that. We got to kill that bullshit. Charlene Curry. Charlene Curry. What's going on, Charlene? How you feeling, Charlene? Good to see you, ma. Thanks for coming on through. Okay. And my brother Ansel Jones is in the house. What's going on, my brother Ansel Jones? T. Carrie Wright says, Emily and Omar, as an educator administrator who chose to homeschool 5 out of 7 children, I can tell you that thinking is most certainly not lean. I know that. I'm just trying to get you to understand what my definition of homeschooling is. Like I said, okay, for example, when I was growing up, I knew some kids that didn't go to school until 1st grade. They didn't go to Get Set. They didn't go to preschool. They didn't go to kindergarten. You know how hard it is for some children to go straight to 1st grade, where you are expected to be able to read, where you are expected to be able to do math. It's not easy. I still remember Mr. Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert, when I was 3 and 4 years old, worked at New Covenant School right there. It used to be at Wayne Avenue in Queen Lane. Wayne and Queen Lane. And we used to enter the New Covenant on the Queen Lane side. And I went there every day. I remember nap time and all of that shit. And we had our classes downstairs. And my teacher name was Mr. Gilbert. May he rest in peace, Mr. Gilbert. He was a good teacher. My dad really liked Mr. Gilbert because Mr. Gilbert was teaching us some shit. Mr. Gilbert was teaching us about geometry and shit like that. And my dad was really impressed with that because my dad was always really, really concerned with education. You know, he was big on that, very big on education. So if you wanted anything from my dad, all you had to do was put school or education in it and you could get it. Like, Dad, I need a PlayStation 4 because they require it in my class. They do? Yeah, they do. My teacher said I need a PlayStation 4 and I need Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Well, all right then. Let's go get it. Anyway, Mr. Gilbert prepared us as toddlers for
kindergarten, John B. Kelly School. And John B. Kelly School prepared us for the first grade. So I was ready for the first grade, but I remember my man, my good friend. I remember my good friend Ricky didn't go to school until he was 6 years old. As a matter of fact, Ricky wasn't 6 because back then you could, like, his birthday was in December. So you could go to school you could go to first grade at age 5 as long as you were going to be 6 before the new year. So, and sometimes even in January if you could pass this test. Anyway, I remember Ricky's first day of school because he never went to school before. So, Ricky couldn't read. He couldn't do he wasn't prepared. And I remember Ricky, it wasn't even his mom that dropped him off to school. I remember it was his sister that dropped him off to school. First grade. And I'm about to go to my class. And I remember Ricky in the I guess you could call it the recess yard or whatever. And he was holding on to his sister like, no, I ain't going in there. No, you ain't leaving me. And I remember thinking to myself, like, yo, damn, this is crazy. Oh, shit. Rick's scared to go to school. That's what I was thinking in my 6-year-old mind. Like, damn, Ricky's scared to go to school. But I remember thinking also at the time, like, dang, he never went to school before. He's just scared. He wasn't, I guess he never, nobody ever left him alone with strangers. And I remember one thing else. Rick spent the rest of his school time from first grade to 12th grade in LD. And I always took it back to that first day of school because I remembered it. And I was thinking, like, I bet you he didn't have no learning disability. I bet you he didn't. I bet you what he had was a lack of training at home to prepare him to be able to do his homework and stuff. Because I don't think nobody in his family was really all that. And he had a lot of brothers and sisters. That was my dude. That was my man. But yeah, I remember that first day. And in my young mind thinking to myself, like, dang, he should have went to kindergarten first. I remember thinking that he should have went to kindergarten first. Because then he wouldn't be scared. I yelled out to Rick, like, Rick, it's all right. Like, it's just school. It's cool. Rick wasn't paying me no mind. Like, fuck out of here. No. We wasn't even in the school yet. This was out in the courtyard. You know what I mean? If any of y'all live around the way in Pulaski Town, where John B. Kelly School is, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know where the kindergarten classes were, and coming in that gate. I'm talking about on Morris Street. Yeah, on Morris Street, the Morris Street side. Anyway. Charlene Curry says, I went straight to first grade. Some people could do it, Charlene. Some people could do it. My man couldn't do it. But I knew my man, and he wasn't slow. He wasn't slow like that, like not like the other kids that was in LD. Remember, we used to call it OB. You in OB, out of brains. I wonder if there was really a such thing as OB, but that's what we used to call it. Then, when we found out it was LD, we switched it to literally dumb. Man, we was rough. But he didn't have the systems at home to give him the proper tutelage to be able to get the skills to be able to do the work. I don't think that it was a problem with him doing the work. Rick wasn't dumb. But you can be smart, but never find yourself to be school smart, mainly because you never had the confidence. And it's a parent's job. It's the community's job to make sure that a child or that children get the confidence that they need to be able to excel in school. There should be no reason that any child is afraid to go to school for fear of ridicule, for fear of violence, for fear of humiliation. It just shouldn't. I mean, we have to deal with bullies and things like that, but that shouldn't be the crux of why somebody doesn't want to go to school. If you don't want to go to school, normally it's because you don't know the fucking material. And it's embarrassing when you get called on in class to come up to the blackboard or to read in class and you can't do it very well. That's humiliating. And although teachers are trying to develop you to be able to try better, to try more, it can also hinder your success when you are receiving the message in the wrong way. And that's also about teaching. That's also about learning. So every child needs to be homeschooled. Every child needs to be prepared at home to go to school. Somewhere along the way, we got it backwards. Motherfuckers are going to school to be prepared to go home. And the teachers have become the fucking security guard, the cops, the firemen, the EMTs, the goddamn psychologists. Some of them have had to become the nurses and the doctors. And the foster parents too. How many of y'all had that? Remember that? Remember back in the day? Teachers used to invite you to come over their house on the weekends. I remember that shit. Y'all remember that shit? I remember that shit. I remember my first grade teacher. Her name was Miss Podolsky. I'll never forget that name, Miss Podolsky, in first grade. Yeah, white lady. And I remember she was like, this weekend you guys can come to my house. Only not everybody. There was a certain, like, if you were good, you could go to Miss Podolsky's house. And I remember saying to myself, I ain't trying to go to your house, Mrs. Podolsky. You don't give a fuck. I was pro black back then. I'm like, I want to go to Miss Podolsky's house. Care about your house? I'm dead serious, right? So that's your prize. We get to go to your house and I don't know, do school things on the weekends. But we did that kind of shit. Now let a teacher talk about taking you home on the weekends. What? Shit. That teacher's license is getting revoked. You getting investigated. You getting investigated. And who's to say that illicit behavior didn't happen because of that back then? I don't remember any male teachers doing anything like that. It was always the female teachers. Let's see. Miss Podolsky, first grade. Miss Brown, second grade. Miss Bell, fourth grade. Miss Poindexter, fourth grade. That's good. Third grade was Miss Bell. Fourth grade was Miss Poindexter. Fifth grade. Damn. I know sixth grade was Mr. Giomi. But I don't remember Mr. Giomi was out for a little while. And I remember we had a black substitute in fifth grade. You know what? She tried to put us on with the real too. She did. She tried to put us on with the real. I remember that shit. I had good teachers, good black teachers when I grew up. All right. But the teachers that I remember well because they all gave us life experience. The black teachers that I had made sure that they put us on. They tried to give us some game. They tried to teach us about people. They tried to teach us about safety. They tried to teach us how to avoid danger. They taught us about racism. They taught us about discrimination. They taught us about fairness. They warned us about unfairness. They warned us about um about uh people being predatory towards us. They taught us that stuff. And then David says, I definitely try to teach my children how not to end up in custody. So far, so good. Word up. And then David says, me and my sister was just talking about when she was little and how I would go to her parent teacher conferences. Hey. I mean, actually, that's a good thing though, because I mean, listen, what they say, it takes a village. Well, it actually does, and we have to recognize what the village is really about. Yeah. Listen, damn. All right, let's get into this whole thing. I'm just going to go into what I've been talking about for years. Like I said, the title of this show is "What If We Had Better Teaching and Curriculum instead of more funding?" Because we seem to have been conditioned to believe that if we got more money from the state or whatever, then we could have better schools because we would have more facilities. And I'm like, how does that work? How does more money equal better education? I just don't get it. I've never understood that. Like, I've tried to piece it together. Like, okay, if I can't afford to, if I can't afford to go to Harvard or Yale or Brown, Columbia, Dartmouth, University of Penn, Princeton, or Cornell, okay, I can't afford to go there. Does it mean that I won't get a decent education? Doesn't necessarily mean that. Shit. My bigger fish to fry was not how am I going to pay to get into an Ivy League college, is how the fuck am I going to qualify to get into an Ivy League college, regardless of the money? Do I have the aptitude to be able to get a scholarship? An academic scholarship. Have I acquired that type of academic skill? No, not me. Maybe one of y'all, but not me. So I don't have to worry about having enough money to get into Harvard. Shit. Better. I need to get up a few G's to be able to go to this community college. Fuck it. We're gonna start it. I'm going to entry level school. What I'm really saying is this: you don't need money in order to learn. You need people who know things who can teach you. You need a good curriculum. You need a system that's set up that's conducive to your success instead of conducive to your financial detriment. And it seems like there's way too much emphasis on getting this money for education. Look how much college tuition costs. And if you want your children to go to a private school where they will get more individual attention, look how much that costs. Nowadays, it's almost impossible. Well, I shouldn't say that. You know what? Because what I just said is some broke nigga shit. That's broke nigga talk. What I just said. Like, you can't afford to send your children to private school. My baby mom, she sent both of her children to private school in their younger years. One of them is still in private school and is going to be graduating next year. And for the life of me, I don't know how she did it, because she ain't do it with my money. I can't afford it. Listen, I believe in the public school system, but I also, because I understand that there are ways that you can manipulate the public school system to give you what you need. There are good teachers in the public school system. There just are. But of course, your child is going to have to qualify to be able to get into the schools where they will have those tools at their disposal. The thing is, it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that your children can only get a decent education if they are academically astute. Shit, if you're academically astute, then you're already getting a good education, formal education. But we need a system put in place where anybody can be able to compete, because that's what real competition is. How can it be a real competition if only the best can compete, or only the best can enter the race? How is that a competition? How? Anybody should be able to get in the race. We'll see what the competition really is. It's like the field of 64. Or is it the field of 65? March Madness, that goddamn. Well, it have to be 64, wouldn't it? Because it's an even number. Well, one team is just on the bubble, like all crazy on the outside, like, yo, as soon as one of these teams lose, I'm getting in. I'm the 65th team. So yeah. But when I say that homeschooling should prepare you for schooling, and when I say that you shouldn't have to have a lot of money in order to get a decent formal education, I mean it. And I think it's just an avenue that we haven't explored, because we've been conditioned to believe that if we have enough money for it, then we'll get it. Well, anybody with money can buy anything that they want. But how is that in education? How are you showing any of your acumen? How are you showing and proving that you know anything? I could be dumb as a doorknob, but somehow be independently wealthy. Maybe I come from money, but I ain't smart like that. Like maybe somebody like, I hate to use this as an example, but people will agree with this. Like George W. Bush or Donald Trump. Neither one of them are stupid, but George W. Bush definitely benefited from coming from a family that was wealthy. He absolutely benefited from it. I mean, he didn't have the grades to get into Yale. He just didn't have the grades, but he got into Yale. Did he excel when he was at Yale? No, he didn't excel when he was at Yale. He didn't excel when he was at Yale. He was like a C student. Jeb Bush, he was the smart one. He was the one who cared about school and all of that. But Jeb Bush didn't become president of the United States. George W. Bush became president of the United States. Hey, it is what it is. But the bottom line is, everybody can't be a product of a family that has that type of wealth and influence. Everybody can't come from a family like that. So when you don't come from a family like that, are you saying that you're at a total disadvantage? Not a total one. You shouldn't be at a total disadvantage. You have to be at the advantage of the resources that are at your disposal. You have to be able to take advantage of the resources that are at your disposal. So your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, your neighbors, they can all pitch in and add to your educational experience. But they have to believe that they can teach you something of worth. And you know what's fucked up? I'm gonna tell you what's fucked up. You know what's fucked up? I'm gonna tell you what's fucked up. A lot of times, the students that are at risk, the young people who are at risk, are often the ones who get all of the attention. They get all of the chances. They utilize all of the resources. You get kicked out of school, you get expelled from school. Guess what? Somebody gonna get you into some other school. Now you because that way you get people's attention. I mean, if y'all disagree with it, I don't mind. We can talk about it. A lot of times it's the troubled kids, the troubled youth, the violent ones, the dangerous ones. Somebody's going to take an interest in them because they pose a safety hazard. They pose a danger to the community. But these cats often wind up in a juvenile facility, or they wind up in a group home, or like Glen Mills. Glen Mills is actually a decent school. It's just that you got to be bad as shit to get in it. But it helps to turn them around so they get the attention, the time, and the effort that they require. Now here you're dealing with your C student that nobody's paying attention to. They struggling. Squeaking from one grade to the next grade, barely learning anything. They're getting left behind because they're just good enough to make it. Meanwhile, the ones who were headed for destruction, they done learned a whole lot. Regardless of whether they retained any academic information, people paid attention to them and people talked to them. They got counseling and all kinds of shit. Tell me if I'm lying. If I'm lying, let me know. Let me know. T. Carey Wright says, you're referring to life skills. Life skills are an education. I don't care what nobody say. Life skill is an education. You take somebody who goes from first grade all the way to graduating college, and you take somebody who may have dropped out of high school but traveled the whole world, and you tell me that person who graduated from college knows more than that person who traveled the whole world with a high school without a high school diploma. You're not going to be able to convince me of that. You're not going to be able to convince me of that. Because that person who dropped out of high school, who went all around the world, he or she may have dropped out because they were an artist, or because they were a musician, or they had some type of skill. But they traveled the world. They learned all about, they met a bunch of different people. They learned different languages. They had to. It was by necessity. They had to be able to get along. They learned about different currencies. They learned about the exchange thing. They learned about travel. They learned about hotel and hostel accommodations. When I say hostel, I'm talking about a hotel. They have hotels in Europe called youth hostels. A hostel is a hotel. Anyway, it's like a room. You share like a shower. Anyway, so whether you go to Europe or whether you go to Asia or whether you go to Africa or wherever, if you can make it all around the world as a high school dropout, you're going to get an education that person that graduated college ain't got. They don't know shit. They don't know about this culture and that culture and this neighborhood and that neighborhood and this government and that government and how you really make it out here in life. Nah. So a formal education is good. It's good. But look how linear people with formal educations think. They think that they know everything because they went to school. How many of us complain about the people who work at our jobs who have degrees who don't know shit? It's not just jealousy talking. It ain't just hate. There are people who are just book smart. There are people who are just book smart. So when I talk about a curriculum, what if we had a curriculum that was more conducive and tailored to the success of each student? What if we as a community said, fuck the public school system. Fuck the school district. We're going to get a bunch of our students, whether they are struggling in school or whether they're doing well or whether they're average. We're going to get them together and we're going to teach them how to work. We're going to teach them how to do things. We're going to teach them about life. We're going to teach them about politics. We're going to teach them about love. We're going to teach them about sociology. We're going to teach them about math and science. We're going to teach them the shit that they're really going to need in their lives. We're going to teach them how to get from one level of their lives to the next one, because they don't teach that in no school. They'll teach you how to make it to the next grade, but they won't teach you how to make it to the next phase. They won't teach you how to make it to the next phase. Shit. Even women and men who had children as teenagers have a story to tell that a lot of these college graduates can't tell. Man, these college graduates be scared to have a baby. They scared. You know what I mean? Shit, back in my day, girls got knocked up all the time. These sterilized ass millennials and shit, they can't even get pregnant and shit, son, you know what I mean? They can't. Shit, back in my day, you nutting a girl, she was getting pregnant. It was like animals. Nowadays, you be hearing motherfuckers talking about, man, I had sex with 50 girls, and I had unprotected sex with all of them, and ain't none of them get pregnant. Like, damn, Blanky. Damn, Blanky. What you doing? What you doing? But it's real. It's real, you know? And I mean, and I know that a lot of the things that I'm saying is very opinionated, but I know that there's another way, because I never liked school. Yeah, I'm a college graduate. Yeah, Penn State, 1993. Yay, we are at Penn State. So what? I ain't never had a job where I needed a degree in my life. Not the job I have now, not the one before, not ever. I have never. I went in 2017. I said, I'm going to finally do it. I'm going to actually go get a job that requires a degree. And I was thinking about working in the behavioral health field, because I've always been interested in psychology. Well, it didn't work out. I think I know why it didn't work out. But sometimes, yeah. Anyway, some people might say, well, you went to school all those years for nothing. Like, no, I went to school all those years for something. I learned a lot in school, regardless of my classes. I learned a lot in my classes too. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about relationships. I learned a lot about different cultures, because it was people from overseas. It was people from West Coast down south and all that kind of stuff. You know, I learned different slangs, different variations of music and all kinds of things. You know? There's Carol Chamberlain says there are scholarships for single mothers with most Catholic schools. Yeah, man, but fuck Catholic schools. Parish ass. I mean, I don't like no Catholic schools. But well, you know, Carol, you know, the Catholic schools of today, remember, it used to be a Catholic school for everybody. There were Catholic schools for project kids. Like, yo, you don't have no money, you know, but you Catholic, we're gonna give you a discount so heavy you can pay for it with your welfare check. Now they them priests done fucked up shit so bad for the parish. And only schools left are the ones that are good and expensive. It ain't like back in the day. Shoot, remember, Carol, you know what I'm talking about in Philly. It was Saint this, Saint that, Saint everything. Like those schools that you was talking about when you called in the other day, I ain't never heard of them. It was Saint this, Saint that, Saint. Now it ain't. Most of the schools, most of the Catholic schools that I know of don't even start with Saint no more. Cardinal Dougherty. Do they still have St. John Newman? I don't know. Is Newman still open? I don't know. That was South Philly. Roman Catholic, Hallahan, West Catholic, boys and girls. A whole lot of Saint this, Saint that. Maybe all the Saint schools were the ones where the priest was nasty. But like I was saying the other day, man, we can gather up a bunch of our kids and we can make our own curriculum. We can teach them what we need them to know, or we can teach them what they need to know. Okay. Carol Chamberlain says, in my day, Carmen was for the bad girls and Boone was for the bad boys, and we felt we felt we failed if we wound up at those schools. And Boone is still open. Boone is still open. I don't think Carmen is, but Boone is still open, and I think Boone is for boys and girls now. It's co-ed bad. TK Wright says, we teach life skills and vocational classes in my school.